Hello and welcome back to 16 years of No Kid Free, my word. Well, you find me here back in the town of Hay-on-Wye, or as the locals call it, Hay, because it was that time again. By word, I need to do that. Some of them bits in there, I think we're starting to grow their own intelligence. Right, what we've got there for 23 minutes, well I know what time. If you're wondering the reason why I came back to Hay-on-Wye, two reasons. One, I knew there was a laundrette and I knew that everything worked and it's quiet and relatively not busy. And number two is, well, I'll get around these gentlemen. There we go. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, if there's any way of coming into Wales, fair enough, you're a lot further north than this, I can understand. But if you're from the Midlands and the South, best place to come into Wales is through Hay-on-Wye. It is an absolute beautiful place. It's right on the border. Right. Say hello to the locals because I'm parked a bit dodgily. That is actually a word. Yeah, and it's right on the border. You've got brilliant pubs here. Let's try and turn that around. There we go. You've got brilliant pubs here, and it's just a a generally decent way of coming into Wales, and a good way of going out of Wales. Right, rubbish. Tell me about it. Half the stuff that you get when you get to take the belts off and everything like that. You might have to excuse me because I might have a cigarette in a minute. But on that note, I suppose since I got time to wait for the washing machine to finish, and there's not a lot else I can do at the moment, is do the final chapter of my thoughts on Scotland, or recap on Scotland. And my word. Well, where did we left? Oh yeah, I was had my rather inebriated night out in Inverness, and of course I woke up the next morning and I had to depart the chalet a little bit worse for wear, I must admit. You have to excuse me. You shouldn't smoke, children. Honestly, don't smoke. It's bad for you. Isn't going to stop me doing it, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I knew I was meeting up with a lady called Catherine over in Drumnadrochit, and it was still snowing at this point, and it had been snowing heavily that night. So I thought, well, do I go up one side of the north side of Loch Ness, or do I stick to the south side of Loch Ness? And I decided, I'll go to the south side of Loch Ness. There's a few more places to park up, and they looked all right. So yeah, of course, I went up there, and the roads just got deeper and deeper and deeper in snow. Now, Scotland is all right sometimes when you're on the main A roads, they're still full of snow. It just snows that much when you're up that far in the west or the north. Even though everybody said that it don't usually snow that much in the east, but the entire time, eye of the sky everywhere. They always say, oh, it doesn't snow that much. I'm like, yeah, all right. But of course, I parked up, and it was relatively scary getting to the park-up point. And then, then it looked like an abandoned William in this snowdrift, because it was about the only way I could get in there was just full help, and get in there. And then it started snowing a little bit. I was like, nah, it'll be all right. No, it was not all right at all. Oh, no, I do mean at all. I hope this isn't coming up muffled again. At all, because it really did snow, and it was really scary to get out the following night. And yeah, so, but as per usual, me and William managed to make our way out. I'm not doing anything, honestly, children. Yeah, managed to get our way out and whatnot, and then we carried on travelling along. And there's some brilliant roads on the south side of Loch Ness, don't get me wrong, really, and some of them are high, which I'll come back to in a minute. And then, of course, I got up to Fort Augustus, and I was planning on spending the night around there, but none of the campsites were open. And then I thought, oh, well, do you know what? I'll go and check it out. Excuse me. Check it out on the back the way I came. And then I'll camp up there. No, tell a lie. I camped up in the car park the first night. And then the second night, I thought, oh, I'll go back up and check some of them places. And on Park for night, it does say it's a bit blowy, and one of them is like so close to the road, and the road pushed you even the snow pushed you even further into the road. So yeah, I tried right on top, and that was hairy. You know, I've done some windy, but the wind and the ice that was just hitting this side, there is a video about it. You know, one of the few times I actually swear on this channel. My word. So I thought, oh, sorry, do you know what? I'll go back down to Fort Augustus. And then I went into a bar there, and one of the gentlemen in the bar thought I was Welsh, and I sounded Welsh. Yeah, I've been told I sound like a lot of things. Welsh really isn't one of them. But yeah, that being that, woke up in the morning, and then the lady Catherine that I was going to meet, she woke up late as well, you know, and I don't tend to wake up too early if I don't have to. Who would, really? So yeah, I ended up meeting up with her, and she took me for a tour around the houses. Almost tried killing me off, going up this ice road to go and see a frozen waterfall, and it was really, really icy. And she was like, nah, it's all right, it's all right. And then it got really, really, really icy. And she was like, I don't think I'm taking you to the waterfall today. I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm quite happy. And then we had to go back down the road, which is just as scary as going up the damn thing, because there's a massive drop, and it's just sheet ice. I mean, thick sheet ice. So yeah, she took me for a tour around houses. No, she isn't that wealthy. And yes, she is one of these lucky people that live in the middle of nowhere in one of them cottages that everybody fantasizes about. If that's your sort of thing. Fantasise living in the cities, not quite your sort of thing. And then, yeah, just had a brilliant night there. I cooked a tikka masala. That's what I cooked. Cooked a tikka masala and just had a really nice sit down and a really good chinwag. All right, excuse me. I'm not smoking, honestly. Yeah, and then woke up the next morning to even more snow. She's got a son, of course, so she had to go and sort out bits for them. And I must admit, I have a guilty conscience because I was meant to swap for gas bottles and never did. But that was because we were just, you know, she went off early, I was going off, and we both completely forgot, even though she won't let me forget about it. I feel so guilty for smoking on camera. I shouldn't. I really, really shouldn't. And of course, after that, I went for the rest of the North Coast 500, Scottish North Coast 500. So if you imagine, I came up the west coast, up to Shield Egg, went straight the way across, and then went up and around that way. And when stayed in places like Wick, had my tour of the castles there. Wick is it's an out there place. It feels like a frontier, an end of the frontier town, but it's got the dullery of a city, if you know what I mean. It's quite hard to explain into itself, and it's the same with Thurso. But of course, I done that when I stayed right out on the peak. Really peaceful out there, to be honest. Oh, it was good. Did I have a kebab there? I think I had a kebab there. Not too sure. I don't know why I'm looking to the side. There's nobody to ask. Yeah, and then of course I went to John O'Groats, the most northeasterly point of the UK mainland, and I was lucky enough there to be able to take William right up against the post, right on, you know, right by the post, which was beautiful because I didn't think you would be allowed. I went in to ask how much it cost to put yourself there, because originally you used to have to pay an old boy to take your photo there. But she said, no, you'll be all right. You know, just take the pin out, drive up there, just be careful. I was just like, sweet, I'm going to do that. So yeah, that's up there for one of them moments that I've done. And then after that, of course, I went across through Thurso, which if you're going across the north coast of Scotland, from the east, across the north coast of Scotland, I'm waiting to be told off because I'm parked quite dodgily. You know, that's the last town where you're going to get, like, you know, a Tesco's and Lidl's, you know, superstores and things to really stock up on, because after that it's there's not a lot, to be honest. And then I stayed at Dunsop Head, I think it's Dunsop Head, don't quote me on it, which is the most northerly point of UK mainland. And that was another brilliant night. You know, you could see all the way across the Orkney Isles, beautiful lighthouse there, and a chilled out one there. And then, of course, at that time, it was getting really close to Christmas, and there was still not a lot open. and I ended up going for an amazing drive up there, and it was. And the roads up there they just get better and better, and they turn into single tracks, and they're still really cool roads. And I ended up in a place called Betty Hill, and this was the day before the Christmas Eve. And what a brilliant place that is. Brilliant locals there. If you get along with them, they're absolutely amazing. And then they said about parking the car park. Excuse me. Nobody should be bothered, sort of thing. And there was a public toilet right there anyway, so really can't argue about that. And then the bar that I was in is like a bar stroke cafe stroke shop. It's that small a town. And went in there, had some drinks with them, and absolutely brilliant bunch of lads. Some of the old boys like, "Oh, are you coming back tomorrow?" I was like, "Well, I'm not too sure what I'm doing tomorrow, because I never know what I'm doing day to day." And they were like, "Yeah, you got to come back tomorrow, it's Christmas Eve drinks." I was like, "All right then." So the following morning I went, hopefully to get to Cape Wrath. It's the last point of the UK mainland that I need to do. And then I've done, because I've done John O'Groats, I live in the southeast, I've done Lowestoft, I've done Land's End, or Lizard's Point, whatever you want to call it. I've done St David's Point in Wales, I've done South Stats Lighthouse in Wales, and I've done the Mole of Galloway in the southwest of Scotland. That was the last one. But of course, by the time I get there, ferries are shut down. They only run from April to October. So that was a damn it moment. But you can't have everything. Really can't have everything on these adventures. So yeah, I went and travelled back to Betty Hill. And I'm not a spirit drinker. I like my lager, don't get me wrong, I do like a lager. I really, 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 really do like a lager. But I'm not a spirit drinker, and I might occasionally have a wine. Do like champagne, but I had to write toff on it, so I tend to steer clear of that. Toff, twat, whatever you want to call it. So I ended up going back there, and they were saying, "Oh, you're going to drink whiskey." I was just like, I'm not a spirit drinker. They were like, "Come on, it's Christmas, you're drinking whiskey." I was like, "All right then." So they bought me a whiskey, and then me being me, I went, "Well, what's the oldest vintage that you've got there?" And it was an old Portley. I was like, "Right, come on, we had some shots that night." "You sure? It's like £4 a shot." And I was like, "It's Christmas, why not? Why not?" So yeah, there's a video of me trying whiskey for the first time in a long, long while, and it does have a what they call a bite to it. But and whiskey is starting to become a thing, as you will most surely tell after this. And then they were like, "Oh, you're coming back in the morning?" And I was like, "Well, it's Christmas, everybody's like, "No, we'll be here in the morning." And I was like, "All right then." So I'm there at 10:30 Christmas morning in this tiny little village on the north coast of Scotland, right now on dead centre in the north coast of Scotland, having a lager. Well, why not? It's Christmas. I wasn't really going to be doing much. There's another point to this as well. And then somebody's like, "Oh, whiskey, you having a whiskey, Garth?" And I'm just like, he's like, "Having a whiskey." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm having a whiskey." So I'm there at coming up 11 o'clock with my whiskey. He's just like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" And then everybody retired, and I generally, chilled out with William. But the thing was, at this point, there wasn't a lot of places that were open. Well, barely anywhere that was open, so I couldn't get any main meals. The last proper main meal I had was on the Christmas Eve, which I still can't remember what I had. Tells you how good Christmas was. So I was surviving a lot on their meat pies up there, and they're proper meaty pies, and sausage rolls, things like that, heated up on the fan heater from inside the car. It took absolutely forever, and chocolate and crisps. I lost a fair few pounds there. And then, of course, after that, it was time to come back. I ended up coming back along. I stayed right on the beach where it snowed again. Yeah, you can tell I got really fed up with the snow by this point. And, of course, there's still nothing open. So, I stayed right on the beach by I swear it's Dunsop. Dunlop. Something like that. You have to look it up. Right by the beach, which is a brilliant beach if the weather wasn't howling with wind, snow, and everything else like that. And then, of course, I brought myself back along, stayed at the same place off the Point of Wick, and then came all the way back down, and I stayed in a place called Alness. I can't. Was it then? No, I think that was beforehand. No, it wasn't then. Sorry, that was beforehand. Oh, there were so many stops. This is why I should have done it sooner. But I ended up spending another evening the night before Christmas, New Year's Eve, with Catherine again. You know, cooked a bolognese this time, which was nice to have a proper full meal. No. Oh no, there was a night before that. I stayed at the beach. That was it. And that's when I had a rather more expensive whiskey that was like 18 years old. And the Old Portly was 12 years old. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, that was another crazy evening. There's so many crazy evenings in Scotland. Beware, if you go to Scotland, you will get drunk. And then I went and spent the evening with Catherine. Forgot to change the gas bottles over again. Naughty me. And I nicknamed where she lives, Drummond and Droghett Way is the coldest place in Scotland. Because by this point, everywhere else had been melted. You get into this place and it's still minus total numbers with ice and everything everywhere. Could not believe it. And then I had a great day walking up a massive hill that goes behind her house. And you've got some beautiful views there. You know, just to quickly interject now, if you're watching this on YouTube, 16 years and now Kim-free, you're more than welcome to have me on Facebook, Garth Burkhart, and you'll see all the pictures from all the adventures. And if you're on Facebook, you won't find this on Instagram because it's too long. And if you're on Facebook and you want to watch back through any of the videos, you might have a favourite, I don't know, or you might want some advice on one part of it. 16 years and now Kim-free. I say at the start of all my videos, and I'm honestly still trying to get, because I've got less than a month now. We are quite behind on the YouTube, I must admit. Sorry about that, but there's too many people that it's a weird story. I want to get to 200 subscribers before I hit back home. So if you can put a subscribe on the YouTube channel, absolutely do it, please. I'll be greatly appreciated. Right, then, after that, so we're there, Inverness, then I came down and I went to Dundee and spent, it was just an evening in Dundee. I wasn't in Dundee, I was on the opposite sides of the Firth, there, like a lead in water, the Firth. So, it was just an uneventful evening, and then everything went Pete-tong with William, because the electric started messing up. So I ended up in a place which I still can't remember the name of, but I was there for like almost a week waiting for a part because there was nowhere open. That was after I stayed at a castle as well. That's a brilliant way to spend New Year's Eve. Castle, wake up, buy a castle New Year's Day. And then I was there for a week in this place. It's like right at the top, below Dundee, but like inwards before you get to Peterhead. So I stayed by a castle there. I stayed in a really icy car park, which I watched everybody kept spinning around. I stayed in a fair few places, and then I got the bit that I thought that would repair William, and it didn't. So, William has been suffering ever since, and this is back in January, early January, and we're now in, right at the end of March. Bloody hell, it's April 1st tomorrow. That gives you a clue on how far out of date YouTube is. And then I went along and I went to Peterhead because, as a lot of people know, I'd done 5 years on the fishing boats when I was younger. I might have to reverse out in a minute. Oh, she's quite pretty. I didn't say that. And Peterhead is one of the famous ports of where Trawlerman, a programme that used to be on the BBC back way when it used to be on. So it was nice geeking out with all these massive trawler boats. Can you get out? Sorry about this, just letting the lady out. That means I can put up and I don't look like look at it. I'm actually in a proper car parking space. There you go, a bit of live action for you. And then I done Peterhead, and then I came down to another beach where I was meeting up with a lady I know in Aberdeen, which is the place of oil. And I stayed at another beach and had a fantastic steak there, which was absolutely brilliant. I know there's a lot I'm missing out here. But if you go back on my videos, you'll be able to check out all of it. This is just a quick catch up because I'm leaving Wales soon, so I've got to do my thoughts on Wales. I can't be doing that if I've still not done everything from Scotland. It was one of them nights where you parked up, and the police do this in Scotland because you got the right to roam in Scotland. You can go anywhere, camp anywhere. You know, that's a basic freedom in Scotland, and it is beautiful. But I was by a beach, and coppers came up, and they just knocked on the window and went, "You're all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he was just like, "What are you up to?" I was like, "Yeah, overnight stop." He's like, "All right, we're just on the patrol, just making sure you're all right." Fair enough. And I'm like, "Yeah, fair enough. Cool, brilliant." And they went off, had a fantastic meal there. And then I started going in and around Aberdeen, meeting up, having some tours and everything like that. And then I came inland, which had one of the most out there bits. I went to a place called Bolatar. It is beautiful, absolutely. Even though I wouldn't really move there because it's, you know, right by Balmoral. You know, the locals are brilliant, but I can imagine the tourists and everything else being quite snobby. And but you can stay in a car park there. They're absolutely brilliant people. A must go is the Balmoral Inn, and if you go in there, there's a whiskey there that's £25 a shot. And I know that seems a lot, but when you drink it, you understand why. Oh, it was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, and the food in there, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. The food in there, I mean, proper hotel scampi. I can't remember one of the other ones I had, but when I was touring around, it was just because I fancied the hotel scampi again, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then I thought, I found this really beautiful park up night because I went into the middle of nowhere. I was like, this is brilliant. It's on Park 4 night. That's absolutely cool. On the app, it said please go back and forth all the time, but they never really bother you. I'm like, sweet, fair enough. So I'm sitting there, and I was having a can of lager. I was parked up for the night. Police came past, and all of a sudden they spun round, came back out. And if you're in America or anywhere else, don't do this. If you're in England or Scotland, you're parked up somewhere, get out of the car. You know, just get out of the car, leave the keys ignition or put them on the roof, you know, and just walk up to him in a friendly manner and ask him what it is. And then they just basically ask why I'm there. What am I doing there? You know, what's my thing? And I explained everything to them. You know, what I'm doing, travelling around the UK and Ireland for a year and whatnot, and what 16 years now kid means and how far in the places I've been. And they were like, "Oh, right, can we take down your details?" I was like, "Yeah, crack on." So I gave them all my details. And they said, "Oh, well, our system is showing that you haven't got a driving licence." I was like, "You what? No, I've got a driving licence. I've had a driving licence for 22 years. I've got a driving licence." And I was like, no. I'm like, "Oh, man, I haven't been home in ages. You know, what the hell? You know, if they take my licence away because I've got too many points, I've been done speed." And they went, "Oh, just sit in your car. We'll check it out." I was like, "Right, I know I've got the old part of a paper licence that they don't use anymore." You know, I was like, I know I've got that because I lost my photo card in Ireland. And then I was wrenching everything from William out. Finally got out the car. I was like, "Look." They went, "Oh, don't worry, it's just our system messing about." I was like, "Oh, that's unreal." And he goes, "You do know where you are?" And I was like, "Well, technically, no, not really." He goes, "You're on Balmoral Estate." I was like, "Oh, the King's Estate." And he went, "Yeah." I was just like, "Oh, well, everybody's been saying that Charlie's coming up here, King Charles, but everybody calls him Charlie around there." I'm mostly going to get a load of people with their heads chopped off, knowing my luck. I heard that Charlie was King Charles is meant to be coming up this weekend. I didn't know if it was true or not. And they were like, you know, sort of, "Yeah, but we're not going to admit it to you." So, and then after that, they were perfectly brilliant. I even said, "Oh, you know, have you ever been into the Balmoral Inn?" And they got that whiskey. And the younger of the two went, "You are staying in the car tonight, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right then, it's just you've had a drink." And I was just like, "Yeah, no, I'm staying in the car." So even though I was sat in the front of the car, you know, drinking and whatnot, I had my bed in the back of it. They can understand. They've got, you know, a bit of intelligence there to go, "We understand what he's doing. We're not going to make a big deal of it." You know, and they were going backwards and forwards, so if I would have moved, they would have jumped straight on me anyway. And then after that, I spent another night there after going for a bit of a tour around and walking around the loch, which is a beautiful walk around there. I was going to go through the mountain ranges, but it was just way too snowy. Absolutely way too snowy there. And then, yeah, I went up and I stayed back at Balmoral, had me scampi again. I didn't have any more of that whiskey because that was rather expensive. Or did I? I don't think I did. And then the following morning, I thought, well, I'm right next to Balmoral Castle anyway. You know, I might as well, even if I can't get into the castle, because when the king isn't there, you can't actually go. When he isn't there, you can actually go in and have a tour around the Balmoral estate. But I thought, well, you know, even if I do a YouTube video, you know, at the front gates and whatnot, it's, you know, it's something really. And then, of course, I turned up to the car park that's like around the corner from the Balmoral Castle, and all these people are lining the streets. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, fair enough, part-time. So, you know, anything particular happening? He's like, oh, the king's going to come past. I was like, any particular reason why? I was like, well, yeah, it's Sunday service. Didn't realise it was Sunday. And yes, I think I saw the king, and he went past at that speed. Absolutely that speed. And then I wanted to do my video, so I went out, asked all the policemen, because there's a fair few policemen about, and they went, yeah, it's all right, it's all right. Got right up to the gates, and then the bloke that was at the gates goes, can I have your details? I was like, mate, you've already got them. And he was like, really? He was like, what's your name? I was like, Garth Burkhardt, you know, and explained what I was doing. And he went, oh, yeah, 30 the dearings. I was like, yeah. And he's like, you got a telephone? I was like, don't know, off by heart. He was like, fair enough, and whatnot. And then, of course, he's walked off with this lady, police lady, there we go. He walked off. But of course, where I explained everything I was going to say in the video to them, they're laughing their heads off behind the camera, and I'm trying to keep a straight face while doing a little bit to camera. So that made it all that more interesting. And then I know this is getting on for a bit. I just want to clear it out, shut it down, and then it's done. And then after that, I was meant to meet up with a lady, and the road was too icy for her, so I didn't end up doing that. And then I ended up going around a few places in that area. Oh no, that's when I went to Dundee after that. Tell a lie, I'm forgetting my geography now. And then I went down, and then I came across and I went to Dumfries. I can't remember why I went to Dumfries. But I ended up having a couple of nights in Dumfries in an amazing hotel there. Of course, as I said, the videos are up. And an amazing day playing dominoes. And then after that, and then, no, tell a lie, before that, I went to the Mole of Garraway. That's the reason I went that way. My budget was running quite low. And I got into a point where it was a case of I was trying to convince myself to buy a bottle of whiskey because I wanted to drink every night, and that would have been cheaper than buying beer. And if you get to that point in your head, don't. Yeah, go sober. That is the point where you really do need to go sober, because that is a slippery slope. But the Mole of Galloway, really underrated place. Beautiful area. Lochdoon's beautiful. There's plenty of places to park up there. Keep yourself tidy. Absolutely amazing. And then I had the unfortunate incident in Newton and Stewart where I basically got run out of town. All the teenagers came to the car park and they were throwing stuff at William. It was just a really crappy area to go to, so I wouldn't recommend that place. And then my last couple of nights in Scotland was when I went to Dumfries. And yeah, brilliant hotel. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it's beautiful in there. I had a bath there, which was absolutely amazing. An amazing king-size bed. And it was, I think, £52 a night it was. The first morning I didn't have breakfast because I wanted to lay in. And then the first day I was there, I ended up going to a pub that I've been to when I first came into Dumfries at the very start of the trip. And then, and then I ended up playing dominoes with a load of people, which was, last time I played dominoes was up in Betty Hill on Christmas Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve I played dominoes. So, and then went out. I went to the back bar. It was meant to be this really high-end restaurant. It was crap. It was crap. Expensive food for stuff that weren't very good. And then I had a brilliant night. And then the next day I just went for a meander around, as you do. You go and see the sights of Dumfries, do some bits and pieces. Went out, had a nice chat and everything with some people at the local pubs and everything like that. Woke up in the morning, got given an amazing breakfast, an amazing big cuddles and kisses goodbye, because they knew I was leaving Scotland, and that's the way it is. And that is that. We have finally caught up, and I think my washing is going to be quite well and truly done. So, on that note, sorry it's been too long. We're all caught up now for Scotland. All you got to worry about is when I do the bit for Wales. And as I always say, take it easy, keep adventuring, and love you, bye.